Thank you for everyone for joining us today. We're going to be getting started in just a moment. I do want to share with everyone, again, all of our resources are available on our website. You can always go to the link right there on the screen. And you'll notice when you do go there that there will be our presentation for today in the resources folder. You'll notice it's oriented a little bit differently. I guess this is a great opportunity to share. This is week one of our virtual summer of CS. So I do want you to know if you'd like to join us next week, it's going to be the same link. Even if you haven't registered, feel free to hop on. It's the same link. So you'll notice that it has week one and week two. Under week one, we have it organized to demonstrate the presentations, as well as a link to lesson planning resources. That's where you'll find the Dole Whip CS lesson plan and some of the other things that we went over. So please do check that out. And even if you aren't able to join us next week due to scheduling, we'll do our best to record the session for you, just to give you an opportunity to be able to engage in that professional learning. And I do want to share, today as we engage in our closing session, it really is about just elevating a little bit of what we went through, reconnecting with some ideas, and then allowing us to really go off and be able to take this new learning as we prepare to engage students as we start the new school year. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and begin the presentation. So today, our focus is really on revisiting one of the questions we had from day one, right? It was, what are these three levels of culture? And what is that really all about? I know I dropped a document in the folder, but just in case you didn't have a chance to review it, we will walk through it together. After that, we're going to engage in a breakout activity where we're going to review an article and have a conversation around it. And then we're going to have a look at computer science advocacy and understanding more about computational thinking and social emotional learning. A lot of times when we think about things like growth mindset or students developing grit and having perseverance, I'm sure we can agree that has a lot to do with those ideas around social emotional learning. So we're going to make some connections to that today as well. All right. Again, the presentation is available for you on the website. So one of the things that I referenced yesterday that I realized I didn't pop the graphic on for was really giving us some time to consider these three levels of culture. The reason I say consider is because I think one of the first times I heard of something in these lines was when I heard the term code switching. Don't know if you've ever heard it before. The term code switching has nothing to do with programming, rather how we navigate in between spaces, right? Language that we might use when we're with friends versus when we're at work, or language we might use when we're in certain spaces that we wouldn't use in other spaces, right? So when we think about that, surface culture is really looking at our talk style, how we communicating, right? So one of the most interesting things I found is like when I'm in LA, it automatically comes on naturally. All of a sudden, I'm the what's up guy. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up this, right? Whereas when I'm in my work mode or right now, it's hi, how you doing? As an example, right? I'm literally toggling in between two different ways of speak, right? It could be looking at cooking, language, games, right? How we dance, right? That can be everything from considering those that do salsa dance, considering those that do hip hop dance, right? Then it does go into greater depth. I know it says shallow, but I thought I would just highlight, we don't really mean shallow, right? We mean actually invading more into our personal space, right? How we consider respect, how we deal with eye contact, ways of handling emotion. And then it gets even more deep, right? Our definition of family. But then one of the most interesting things are, and this is really as it relates to how we identify ourselves, right? Whether we see ourselves through an individualistic lens or a collectivist lens, right? And that really impacting how we engage the world. Now, we're not going to read through each of these, but I think it's interesting just to look at some of the surface information. So we know that this level of culture really has a low emotional charge. When you speaking differently, when you're looking at ways people cook differently, think of a potluck, right? We don't really have any emotional connection to that unless that food is really good, right? But this level is really made up of concrete, observable elements such as culture, food, dress, holidays, right? And this is important to understand because we know we're going to have students coming from diverse backgrounds. How can we consider this element as we're having our students engage, right? All about that culturally responsive strategy, right? Now, shallow, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just know it's made up of unspoken rules and social norms and concepts of time, as well as appropriate touching or how close we are when we're communicating. Have you ever been in a situation where you were communicating with someone that had a different sense of that than you did? I know I have. Someone was talking to me literally this close. I said, hey, just a minute now, right? That is an interesting observation because sometimes if you're thinking about it through a cultural lens that you aren't familiar with other cultures of, then you might perceive it differently. But really, that's part of that too, right? Another way to kind of think about this is looking at going into deep culture. And of course, all this is for you on the presentation. You can feel free to look at it on your own and read through it and have more reflection. But this level is made up of tacit knowledge and unconscious assumptions that govern our world. Let's pause there. Unconscious assumptions. That sounds a lot like unconscious bias, potentially, right? Though I would argue assumption does sound more positive. Let's think about that as we're thinking of understanding those three levels of culture. We referenced that on day one. So as we prepare to engage in our talk right now, if you could in the chat, share what are some ideas or thoughts you already have when you hear the term computational thinking, or you hear the term social emotional learning. What comes to mind? Feel free to type in the chat or get audible, whatever you'd like. Well, I know that often my first time hearing that term, computational thinking, was when we were working on the California Math and Science Partnership Grant. We were saying we wanted our students to think computationally. However, when we talked about it in that lens, it was through the lens of a mathematical mindset around how students can understand to solve different types of calculations. Comparatively, when I've had conversations in the computer science space around computational thinking, it actually resonates in one of those practices, right? Around recognizing and identifying computational problems and thinking about problems through the lens about how they can be solved in a computational way. That's just one articulation. There are many, but I thought I would share that. All right. All right. So one of the things I think is interesting is that as I've been to schools all over Orange County, I hear the word coding a lot. And I say often, what is one way you advocate for CS Ed? Well, one teacher might say, I'm doing an hour of code with my students. Another teacher might say, well, we're doing coding nights with our students, right? Another teacher might say, we have a robotics team. Others may be sharing up ideas about the standards. So if I were to ask you right now, if you're thinking about your school community last year when you were pre-pandemic or even post-pandemic, right? What might be one way you advocated for CS education at your school? Feel free to type it in the chat. One of the things we know as we do our script analysis, and I know I may not have shared this, but I am a script facilitator. A script facilitator is someone that works with districts and helps them assess this. SCRIPT is an acronym: strategic, CS for all, resources, implementation, planning tool, right? It's a way of working with the school, the district, and assessing where they are in implementing computer science. Maybe they have a coding club. Maybe they've got some Ozo bots lying around, right? Everyone makes their journey in a different way. Okay, I see here in the chat, right, Girls Who Code Club, 3rd to 5th grade. Someone else wrote code.org. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want you to know there's loads of resources available for you if you're looking to start up a coding club at your site. Join us next week with Girls Who Code. Oh, someone posted a family STEAM night with Dash Robotics and Code Ninjas. That is awesome. Because really we know we are a locally controlled community in Orange County, right? Local controlled funding formula. What that means is When we create our LCAPs, our local control accountability plan, that's developed by feedback from educators, feedback from students, feedback from the community. And when you hold family STEAM nights, when you hold coding nights, or like someone else is sharing here, having a VEX robotics club, you help to elevate awareness around programming, computer science, and those types of things, right? And that helps to give our community language to use when they're responding to feedback surveys for our LCAPs. It's what helps to put money into the LCAP for us to have STEM and robotics programming, right? Also, are we 6th to 12th grade teachers? Are we aware of the career pathways aligned on ICT, information and communication technology? I actually happen to have my ICT credential, and I can tell you it's a great way to engage students on that pathway as they make their way into computer science spaces. All right, we already asked this question. I know I did the audible. We're not going to do this now, but the prompt was there. We're going to move on. All right. So there are 2 types of skills we need to succeed. I'm curious in the chat if you can respond. Which one do you think is more important? You look at the bike, there's one that has technical skills. The other wheel has life/soft skills. What do you think? Please respond in the chat. What do you think are the most important skills? Life skills, they can be applied to anywhere. You need to have both too. I really appreciate this. Oh, both, right? Yeah, you do need both. I really appreciate these responses because I know we can exist in both spaces. I definitely, depends on what kind of life you want. Oh, that's a really dynamic response, right? Because yes, I do like the one response. If you have life skills or soft skills, that means you will have the ability to maybe engage into spaces where you may not have the technical skills, but you'll have the soft skills to be able to internalize them. Yes, both are important. In other situations, you may have those technical skills, but void of those soft skills, you may find yourself unable to traverse or to move up in the organization. And that may be, something that stagnates you. There was a recent survey taken, that really wondered, we're in 2020 now, this was a year that folks projected to, right? What will be the top 10 skills needed as by the World Economic Forum? Well, I'll let you take a look and read them there. A lot of times when we're working in education, we'll think of things through the lens of practices, right? Whether in science, they're your science and engineering practices. In math, your mathematical practices. Or here in computer science, those core practices, right? Think of where they exist here, right? Complex problem solving, critical thinking, people management, negotiation, right? Cognitive flexibility. Each of those are representative of what I would argue things you glean when you're engaging in a computer science lesson or activity, right? Maybe not everything, but many of them. All right. So this was a really interesting quote. I thought it would be great to share. Every maker of video games knows something that the makers of curriculum don't understand. You'll never see a video game being advertised as easy. Kids who do not like school will tell you it's not because it's too hard, it's because it's boring. Now, I know if I asked you by show of hands, how many of you heard of kids say that something is boring before, right? I think it's really important for us to consider that, especially as we enter into this remote learning environment, we got to think of things through the lens of how can we design lessons? How can we ensure that our learning experiences for students allow them to have intrinsic motivation and for it to be personally rewarding, right? So here is a grid. There's a link on the slide deck in case you want to revisit it later about thinking of the notions around social emotional learning. For those of you looking at the slide deck, you'll see self-management, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness. These are all things that will help us to be productive members of society, right? But also help us to be able to understand ourselves in relation to others, right? Understand and manage emotions, that whole idea of emotional intelligence, right? Set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others. I know there's a huge thing you observe as students reach those teenage years where they seem to really lose some of that. How can we create opportunities for them to cultivate and develop that, right? Establish and maintain positive relationships and make responsible decisions. So here's an activity. This is a self activity, and I'm hoping that we'll have some brave friends here that'll want to share. Not certain if you've seen this, but this is the Bridge Riddle Challenge. We're going to play it for about a minute. We'll pause and then we'll consider it. I'll give you a minute to come up with your solution and then we'll come back together. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. Here we go. Let me actually pause this because I just realized I did not share my audio. And in order for you to be able to hear it, I have to share computer sound. Okay, there we go.
Taking that internship in a remote mountain lab might not have been the best idea. Pulling that lever with the skull symbol just to see what it did probably wasn't so smart either. But now is not the time for regrets, because you need to get away from these mutant zombies fast. With you are the janitor, the lab assistant, and the old professor. You've gotten a head start, but there's only one way to safety: across an old rope bridge spanning a massive gorge. You can dash across in a minute, while the lab assistant takes 2 minutes. The janitor is a bit slower and needs 5 minutes, and the professor takes a whole 10 minutes, holding onto the ropes every step of the way. By the professor's calculations, the zombies will catch up to you in just over 17 minutes. So you only have that much time to get everyone across and cut the ropes. Unfortunately, the bridge can only hold 2 people at a time. To make matters worse, it's so dark out that you can barely see, and the old lantern you grabbed on your way only illuminates a tiny area. Can you figure out a way to have everyone escape in time? Remember, no more than 2 people can cross the bridge together. Anyone crossing must either hold the lantern or stay right next to it, and any of you can safely wait in the dark on either side of the gorge. Most importantly, everyone must be safely across before the zombies arrive. Otherwise, the first zombie could step on the bridge while people are still on it. Finally, there are no tricks to use here. You can't swing across, use the bridge as a raft, or befriend the zombies.
All right, we're going to pause right here and let's take a look at these facts. We're going to have 2 minutes to just think to ourselves about how we might solve this problem. Okay, 17 minutes to get everyone across and cut the ropes, max 2 people at a time, and they must stay together on the bridge. Those are the number of minutes it would take for the persons to get across the bridge. I'm gonna hit a timer for 2 minutes here. I'll give them what to think about this and to come up with what you think might be a solution. right, we're at the end of the 2 minutes, and I'm really wondering, might someone be open to sharing any solution they might have came up with? Let's take a look here. Professor goes first, 5 minutes in, janitor goes, they both get to end at 10 minutes. Repeat process with 2 minutes per person first, then 1 minute person starting at 1 minute in. They arrive together at 2 minutes, total equals 17. Oops, 12 minutes total. That's in the chat. That is a very interesting solution. Do any others have any solution they'd be willing to share? It says they have to stay together on the bridge. Okay, max 2 people at a time must stay together on the bridge. Okay, that's some feedback. That's interesting.
I've got it, Omar. It's
Okay.
Rochelle.
Hi.
I've actually done this before, so I feel
Oh,
bad.
wow.
Here, let me put my video on so I can be like, hi, okay.
Hi.
So you send, I call them A, B, C, and D, I guess. So send the 1 minute and the 2 minute person across. So that takes 2 minutes. Then A goes back, the 1 minute person. So that's 3 minutes. And B is still over there. Then you send the 2 old guys across, and that's 10 minutes. So that makes it 13 minutes. Leave them on the other side. B comes back with the lantern.
Oh,
so
wow.
the 2 minute person, so that makes it 15 minutes. And then A and B come back across again, and that makes it 17 minutes, and now everybody's across.
Oh my goodness. Where are my emojis here? Do I have emoticons? That is like awesome. Yes, that's absolutely it. And in case you all want to see what that would look like, I can show you just like she shared. We're going to go down to the, 1 minute mark. Oh, goodness. This will be the last try. If not, we'll abort. I know that.
Taking that internship in a remote mountain lab might not have been
Okay. I've got some controls on my screen.
Cross the bridge together. Anyone crossing must either hold the lantern or stay right next to it. And any of you can safely wait in the dark on either side of the gorge. Most importantly, everyone must be safely across before the zombies arrive. Otherwise, the first zombie could step on the bridge while people are still on it. Finally, there are no tricks to use here. You can't swing across, use the bridge as a raft, or befriend the zombies. At first, it might seem like no matter what you do, you're just a minute or two short of time. But there is a way. The key is to minimize the time wasted by the 2 slowest people by having them cross together. And because you'll need to make a couple of return trips with the lantern, you'll want to have the fastest people available to do so. So, you and the lab assistant quickly run across with the lantern, though you have to slow down a bit to match her pace. After 2 minutes, both of you are across, and you, as the quickest, run back with the lantern. Only 3 minutes have passed. So far, so good. Now comes the hard part. The professor and the janitor take the lantern and cross together. This takes them 10 minutes, since the janitor has to slow down for the old professor, who keeps muttering that he probably shouldn't have given the zombies night vision. By the time they're across, there are only 4 minutes left, and you're still stuck on the wrong side of the bridge. But remember, the lab assistant has been waiting on the other side, and she's the second fastest of the group. So she grabs the lantern from the professor and runs back across to you. Now, with only 2 minutes left, the 2 of you make the final crossing. As you step on the far side of the gorge, you cut the ropes and collapse the bridge behind you, just in the nick of time.
And voila, the day is saved. And just as Rochelle shared, that is one strategy that can be used to solve this challenge. And I want you to think about the lens now, right? I know we opened up asking you to share some ideas about what you know about computational thinking or social emotional learning, but really considering, ways in which we can engage in activities to support students and creating an algorithm, right, to solve that problem, but then also thinking about it through the lens of the social emotional learning piece as well, right? So we know when we're engaging in these ideas around computational thinking, it involves lots of concepts. This was an interesting graphic shared during the CSTA to give us some ideas about ways we can think about computational thinking, right? And there are some resources that were also shared, but I want us to look at these rungs, right? Self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, self-management, and relationship skills, and how we can weave some of this in when we're engaging our students. Now, this is a more nuanced definition of computer science. It is the study of computers and algorithmic processes, including their principles, their hardware and software, designs, their implementation, and their impact on society. All right. So we really want to work towards creating an inclusive CS space with SEL as a guide by creating a safe space, by thinking of ways we can affirm perspectives. So right now, here's what's going to happen. We're going to go in the breakout room. There are 2 articles that you're going to take a look at. One article is written by ACSD, Why We Can't Afford Whitewashed Social Emotional Learning by ACSD. Specifically, I'd like for you to take a look when you scroll through the article at the bottom. There are, once it opens up, there are the strategies for teaching fearless SEL. That's what you're going to be reviewing, right? And there's the strategies and the document there, right? Take a look at that. And then also take a look at when SEL is used as another form of policing. This is an article written by Medium, and it'll take you to another website where you can take a look at the article. Now, given we'll be in breakout rooms, you may find that you just want to choose one article and maybe have another team member or breakout room member read another article. It'll be up to you. And then we'll come back together and then we'll transition as our friends with PopFizz take us through the rest of our time together. Might there be any questions? All right, and hopefully everyone has the presentation. I can does anyone need me to drop the link to the articles in the chat at all? Would that be helpful? Okay, give me one moment. This here is the, in the chat. Where is the chat? Here it is. Thank you. Nothing came up there. There it is. Okay. Control V. That is the link to the SEL as additional policing article. And this here is the article, I'm sorry, on, here we go. All right, I just put those in the chat. Everyone got that? All right, so I'll go ahead and send the breakout rooms up now, and we'll see you in a few minutes. All right. Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, thank you, everyone. I'm hopeful you had a positive experience reviewing those documents. Admittedly, I came across the title of the one, and it was really interesting. So I'm curious, what might be any thoughts or reflections you have from your dialogue with your collaborative partner in your group about any of the articles? Would anyone like to share or say anything in the chat? Feel free.
Sure. We read Article 1.
Oh.
And
Sorry. Go ahead, Yvette. Sure.
It's just very challenging to address those topics in school in a setting where, like I said, it's kind of districts, teachers are afraid because they don't want to get fired or saying the wrong thing. And I was just sharing, like when I taught kinder, I mean, kids are brutally honest about what they say. And
wow.
sometimes, like, how do you address that with little ones that don't understand a lot of the times, or maybe they do?
Yeah.
But I spoke to my experience with restorative circles, how you use that space to kind of discuss and have kind of like a safe space to talk about how everybody feels about certain topics, which helps. But it's challenging for me personally.
Yeah, I know we have someone in the chat shared, you can address these topics all day, but if it is not modeled at home, then it doesn't matter. So I definitely know that we have to think of ways we can, not only create safe spaces, but think about how those can create opportunities for students to have that. But I definitely know that challenge. So we just want to make sure we're choosing our activities wisely, finding that balance between what's safe and comfortable and willing to take risk and encourage our students to engage. When you have a moment, take a look at some of the activities that were shared on tinkering, creating, right? As well as debugging, right? This activity here is from Girls Who Code, as that will be there for you. Looking at ways you can look at the through points between computational thinking and social emotional learning. Now, we're not going to go in these resources now, but I highly would encourage you to click on this resource link, as here you're going to find a link to a host of activities that have links to them, whether you're looking at data, patterns, self-management, relationship skills, they're all for you there. So without further ado, I would like to invite Jane Lee with our collaborative partner from PopFizz to join us now. Jane, I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host, so I can make sure you have sharing privileges. Just a moment, please. Thanks so much. All right, Jane, you should get notification there. And
yep.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All righty, so we are on day 5. Woohoo! How are you all feeling? Are you a little overwhelmed? In terms of the course progress, don't worry about rushing through it too much. You have all the time in the world, and we'll be monitoring constantly, and give you code feedbacks. And some of you who completed some of the projects that were required would see that there is a blue icon in the corner of that project page where you can click on it and see our code reviews. So once you make a resubmission, we'll go in and do the grading again. So wanted to mention that briefly. And those of you who are still not on the course, you can join us with this link. And if Alan can help us out by pasting this in the chat window, that'd be great. So today we're going to be doing something really, really fun. And we're going to be using a tool called the Teachable Machine, created by Google, which uses the TensorFlow library. And before we jump into that, we should review the JavaScript course content just, maybe for like 2 seconds. And the way I'm going to do that is to demonstrate how powerful it is with this example again. So once again, I'm going to right click on this page, click on inspect. And this time, we're going to do something slightly different. So in order for us to apply or run JavaScript here live, what we need to do is we need to click on that console window. So click on console, and this is where you can actually type in live JavaScript and hack this website. And let me grab the code that we're going to use. And it's also one of the example codes that we used in the course. So you might recognize what that is. And so let's see. All right, let's see if I can find that code right off the bat. And basically what we're trying to do here is to make parts of this website disappear using JavaScript. And JavaScript is very powerful like that. All right, so we're going to use this code here, which is document.getElementById. And right now we have a placeholder called main content, and we're going to apply the style display none, and poof, just like that, the portion of the website that has this ID is going to disappear. And let's go back and grab a couple IDs and see if we can get rid of them. So we can go through the code in this element section, and we see that for this big area here right now that's got a little, it's now colored bluish, right? that part is actually called home, right? So this section right here is called home, and below that might have a different ID. So we can inspect what that is by clicking on this icon here and then seeing what that is. And yes, this section is called about. And why don't we try getting rid of that whole about section? And very easy to do. All we have to do is replace that code in the console that we typed in, get element by ID. Instead of main content, we're gonna place about in there and then run. All right, so let's see. Ooh, yes, that just disappeared. And just like that, we can get rid of all the sections. So the first part's called home, right? So if we type in home here, oops, sorry, gotta retype this again. And this time, instead of about, we'll replace it with home. And that will get rid of that home section altogether. And enter, gone. Okay, so yes, JavaScript is super powerful, and it's a way of creating interactions on your website. And we're gonna be using that to program our teachable machine. And let's see what we have for us next. All right, so going back to the slides, we did cover this bit yesterday, talking about where AIs are used. And it's pretty much used everywhere in all industries, all across the board, and it's affecting our lives in every aspect. And these AIs are getting smarter, faster. And we've identified that, we have Siri, Alexa, Tesla, the Netflix suggestions, autopilot, the algorithmic trading, and medical image reading. These are all done with AIs, and they do a pretty excellent job. All right, so does anyone know what this is? So it's one of the most challenging tasks given to AIs to figure out if they can discern a blueberry muffin from a chihuahua. And computer scientists have used this to figure out which AI is the smartest. And there's an article that I linked in the course. Read more about it. It tells you, which AIs were actually able to do something close. Yeah, so AIs, basically how it works is you have to feed it training data, and it'll learn patterns across the data. And at some point, it's going to figure out how to learn better, which is the scary part. And you have supervised AIs, you have unsupervised AIs, and the scary ones are the unsupervised ones. And even, the smartest computer scientists cannot figure out how they are learning at this point because they're so advanced. So it's a big black box, and because we don't know how it works, we might not have full control over it. So that's the scary part. All right, next part. So what does that mean for us? If we have less control over what's going on, we can't monitor everything that's going on, and we don't know how it works, and it's everywhere. How will that impact us? And we're just gonna watch this video, just the first 3 minutes of it, because it's very powerful. And I think the way she tells the story, it talks about everything that I wanted to talk about. So let's watch it. All right, same issue as before. I wonder if I can just play this right here. Okay, there we go.
Hello, I'm Joy, a poet of code on a mission to stop an unseen force that's rising, a force that I called the coded gaze, my term for algorithmic bias. Algorithmic bias, like human bias, results in unfairness. However, algorithms like viruses can spread bias on a massive scale at a rapid pace. Algorithmic bias can also lead to exclusionary experiences and discriminatory practices. Let me show you what I mean. Hi, camera. I've got a face. Can you see my face? No glasses face? You can see her face. What about my face? Well, I've got a mask. Can you see my mask? So how did this happen? Why am I sitting in front of a computer in a white mask trying to be detected by a cheap webcam? Well, when I'm not fighting the coded gaze as a poet of code, I'm a graduate student at the MIT Media Lab. And there I have the opportunity to work on all sorts of whimsical projects, including the Aspire Mirror, a project I did so I could project digital masks onto my reflection. So in the morning, if I wanted to feel powerful, I could put on a lion. If I wanted to be uplifted, I might have a quote. So I used generic facial recognition software to build the system, but found that it was really hard to test it unless if I wore a white mask. Unfortunately, I've run into this issue before. When I was an undergraduate at Georgia Tech studying computer science, I used to work on social robots. And one of my tasks was to get a robot to play peekaboo, a simple turn-taking game where partners cover their face and then uncover it saying peekaboo. The problem is peekaboo doesn't really work if I can't see you, and my robot couldn't see me. But I borrowed my roommate's face to get the project done, submitted the assignment, and figured, you know what, somebody else will solve this problem. Not too long after, I was in Hong Kong for an entrepreneurship competition. The organizers decided to take participants on a tour of local startups. One of the startups had a social robot, and they decided to do a demo. The demo worked on everybody until it got to me, and you can probably guess it. It couldn't detect my face. I asked the developers what was going on, and it turned out we had used the same generic facial recognition software. Halfway around the world, I learned that algorithmic bias can travel as quickly as it takes to download some files off of the internet. So what's going on? Why isn't my face being detected?
All right, so that was a very scary video, right? Any thoughts on that? I know there was a mention in the chat window from Ray. Kind of reminds me of when I'm trying to do that CAPTCHA exercise to prove I'm not a robot. Find all frames with bicycles or traffic lights. Yes, that happens a lot, right? Yeah, so, and then there's this article right here. I mentioned this briefly yesterday about how Microsoft created an AI chatbot and trained on Twitter and became a racist asshole in less than a day. So it began with all these like enthusiasm for, humans are super cool, and became a full Nazi in less than 24 hours. So what we feed our machines, our teachable machines, is very, very important. And that data set, we need to make sure that it's inclusive. All right, so let's go back to the slides. And the next one, yeah, so we need to figure out how we can teach AI and how we can make sure that our students recognize where these AIs are residing and what we can do about it and how we become a participant of building this data set. All right, so there are many, many resources out there. The one you see on the left side, AI for Oceans, this is pretty popular on code.org. It's very, very fun to work with. So basically what you're doing is you have different fish that you're gonna put labels on and teach the machine how you feel about that fish. And later on, it's gonna make a prediction of how you will feel about a certain looking fish. And then on the top here, this is Teachable Machine from Google, which we are going to demo and use right after this. And below here, this is the TensorFlow Playground. And I think if you are a little advanced in JavaScript and coding, try this out. It's very, very interesting. It uses neural networks. And let's go on to the next slide. All right, so teaching AI, this 5 pillars have been created by an organization called AI for K-12, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. They're computer scientists, educators who came together to create these big ideas on what we should be teaching students in terms of AI And here's number 1, perception. Computers perceive the world using sensors, right? So they don't immediately understand what's going on. They need to use sensors, and that would include, you know, like seeing, hearing, text, and so on. And number 2, representation and reasoning. Agents maintain representations of the world and use them for reasoning. So basically, this is an algorithm. So, so your AI isn't just, you know, something that's born out of thin air. It's got an algorithm that will drive how it works. So your students will need to understand that. And then number 3, learning. Computers can learn from data. Yes. So just by having it exposed, it might not be aware of what's going on. You need to make sure that you feed it in forms that is digestible in data forms. And number 4, natural interaction. Intelligent agents require many kinds of knowledge to interact naturally with humans. So in order for these AIs to interact with humans, it has to be sophisticated. So that's what it means. All right. And number 5, societal impact. This is very important. So AI can have impact on the society in both positive and negative ways. So in positive ways, it can make your work very, very efficient, right? Instead of somebody, you know, going through, you know, vast data, like labeling it one by one, you can have it all done at once very easily. Negative ways, you saw in the videos, you know, if you feed it the wrong data set, or if your algorithm's a little off, you know, it could cause a big disaster, global disaster. All right, so now let's go over to Teachable Machine. Just to give you an overview of how it works, 1, we're gonna gather data using our webcam, and then we're gonna press train model button to train it, very simple. And then it's gonna spit out a code that you can embed right on your website. So it's very simple. All right, so here is an example of a banana. It's called Banana Meter. And what it does is it tells you if your banana is ripe or it's too early or too late. And we're gonna see that in action. All right, so let's go on to that banana machine. So there's a link to this tutorial if you'd like to take a look. Very interesting what this person did. So basically, you categorize it, right? Too early, ripe, too late, no banana. Oh, thank you, Alan, for sharing the link. Yes, so we're gonna jump there in a bit. And then you're gonna train it by recording your banana, right? And then with the right category. So this is a ripe banana. And too late, right? Lots of black parts in there. And then hold to record, and then train it. Then click on that training button and it's done. So then you're gonna hold up a banana and test it. And it'll tell you what category it fits into. Pretty amazing. But the catch is, it does not recognize objects. So all it sees is just flat pixels. We as humans, we recognize objects, right? But all the machine sees is just different colored pixels. And so if you actually put it against a different background, or you were recording you're training your AI with yourself in it, and then you want to test it without yourself, it's going to get very confused. So in this case, this person, you know, tested it with 2 bananas. The AI got very confused, right? You can see the graph sort of trembling. And then, yes, lighting and background color matters. So it's a good idea to keep your background consistent. And if you actually want other people to use it, you might want to use a white or a single color background. And then let's jump to our teachable machine. Oh, let's see this in action. So let me pull up this website. So this person created this website where we can actually run this, and you'll also be creating this website too. So you're going to be able to host it and share it with the world once you reach that last project. And I don't have a banana at home. I have this tape measure, which is the closest thing to a banana. Sadly, I ran out of fruits. And I hope I can share my camera here. And oh, my computer is slowing down. Okay, next time I'm getting a MacBook Pro, not MacBook Air. Okay, meanwhile that's loading. If you are interested, I can share this link with you. Oh, there we go. So I can see myself now. So try this out yourself if you like to. Let me grab that URL. If you have a banana, awesome. You get to try out the real thing. Oh no, I don't know why my Control-C is not working. All right, copy, paste. All right, so right now I am too late. Oh, anyway, so here is the tape measure. And let's put the side where it's just, mostly all yellow. It still marks it as too late. Maybe that's because I'm in the photo. Okay, now it's too early. Okay, if I flip it around with a little more black in there, it's gonna turn to too late. All right, so this is Teachable Machine, very simple, right? Let me turn this off. Save some CPU power there. All right, and now let's do this together. All right, so Alan in the chat window, share the link to teachablemachine.withgoogle.com. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna train it to recognize a Pepsi versus a Coke, a Diet Pepsi versus a Diet Coke. I don't know what use this has in the world, but maybe some people are curious. And this has nothing to do with the fact that we're called PopFizz. I just have a lot of soda in my refrigerator. All right, so let's get started. Okay, click on Get Started. All right, so you get to pick 3 types of projects. Is it gonna be based on image? Is it gonna be based on audio or pose? And this time I'll do image. And it gives you 2 classes to begin with. You can create multiple classes. For this one, I'll just create 2. So the first one's gonna be called Pepsi. The second one's gonna be called Coke. And if you'd like to grab anything from your desk or wherever you are and try this out, please do so. Oh, all right. So I am now going to hold up my Pepsi, and I'm trying to, okay, I'm gonna hide. So the Pepsi is recorded, and I'm gonna turn on the webcam, and I'm gonna hold it to record. Okay, I'm just gonna spin it around. I'm holding the button down, right? And this is not the best object because it's reflecting light. All right, so Pepsi is done. It's recorded 140 image samples just now. If you have something in your computer that you would like to upload to teach the AI, you could do that too. But this is a lot easier. So webcam for Coke. All right, I'm gonna hide one more time and then put this up. A little closer maybe this time. All right, webcam, hold to record. Spin it around 360. Maybe it's smart, it'll figure out what it is by looking at the top or the bottom. Okay. So this one also, 141 image samples. And I am ready to train it. Excuse me. So click on that training button. It'll take a few seconds, and make sure your tab is open. If you leave your tab, it's gonna quit training. Oh, I think the Coke also got my myself in it. Maybe not. We'll see how it works. Oh no, it crashed. Okay, let's wait and see if it'll hold up. Oh, it's working. All right. So once this goes up to 50, it's done. And yes, it's giving me that warning, don't switch tabs. Okay, I won't. And off we go. So it's using TensorFlow to train. One of the very popular libraries out there. And let me know if you have any questions. Almost. 3, 2, 1, and preview. Okay. So now we get to test this out. Oh, Alan, yes. Tried two different iPhones. Okay, so here is Coke. Recognized it correctly. Now the label's the difficult part, the nutritional label part. Ooh, still on Coke. And no doubt. All right, looking good. All right, I'm gonna hold up my Pepsi now at the nutritional label. See if that works. Oh yes, almost. Maybe I should hide. Okay. Yes, it's sure that it is Pepsi. Cool. So this is it. That's you just created your own AI. And what we're going to do next is we are going to export our model. And you'll see that here you can upload your model, and you want to do that. Okay, so from this pop-up here, click on Upload My Model. And that is done. So it just took me maybe like 5 seconds to do that. As soon as it got uploaded, I am now given this shareable link, right? So I can copy this and then share with whoever wants to see it. And I can also grab this code snippet in JavaScript form. And if you've gone through the course, you'll probably recognize what this means. So here, we have a teachable machine in text. There's a button that, will call on this initialize function when you click on it. And it also is making, it's pulling the CDN file from this location for JavaScript. And then, yeah, there's all this going on. And you probably could make sense out of it. All right, so next we're going to create our web page. And we're going to do that on PopFizz. Let me try to pull up that screen, course screen. Okay, so those of you who went in this morning might have noticed that there's a share tab. This is new. So if you click on share, and then this should say something different. I think it says create a link. Click on that, and then you're going to get a share link, which you can share with the world. And if you want to update your share link content, just click on that update portfolio, and then that'll be taken care of for you. All right, so I'm going to grab this code here. Click on that copy, and then go to my index.html, and you know how to begin the code here, right? We begin with HTML. Okay. Let me know if I get anything wrong here. Live coding always makes me very nervous. All right, so HTML tags are there and they're matching. And then we want to put in body tags, right? We could have head tags to begin with, but for this example, we'll just keep it simple and only keep the bodies. And in between the body, I'm gonna put in H tags. That is going to say Coke versus Pepsi. And right below that, I'm going to paste in that long code that I got. And there it is. I can run it right on the screen and see it. And let's see if that works. Yes, if I click on that start button, it's gonna work. but this is such a small screen. I'm gonna pull out to a larger screen by clicking on that corner icon and see if this works, please. All right. Will it work? Start. Oh, it looks like the camera button is there. And I think it's just taking a very long time to load. I hope that's the problem. Oh, my browser is kind of frozen. Oh no. Okay. Okay. My computer is just very, very ancient. I definitely need to upgrade. Oh, there we go. Oh, I am a Pepsi person. Oh, yes, I am. This is interesting. You can actually have people, test if they're a Pepsi or a Coke person. And so here it is. Here's my Coke. And this time it's got 1, right? 1 is 100% sure, which is amazing. Works great. Let's take it to that label area. See how that works? Yes, pretty sure. And for this raw version, you'll see that, you get this number value instead of a nice graph. So this is one way of creating your website to host your own AI tool there. Another thing that you could do is from the model that you created, grab this link here. So copy that link. And then in the course, there's actually a second version of the project that you can use. So let me just click on this fancy teachable machine. So this is a fancy graph version. And it's got that Pepsi versus Coke at the top and the title tags, right? You recognize what these are, right? They're all living inside the head tags. And we've got all these, fancy JavaScript files and all that. And, oh, hold on, please. Let me just refresh. So I think I might have made some kind of a mistake in there. So if it turns out that it's a mistake, make sure to fix that so that you can go in and just plug it in and have it ready to go. Oh, so I'm sorry. So there is supposed to be 2 more tabs here. Actually 4 more tabs with the JavaScript code and the CSS loaded. I'm gonna have that fixed right away. But the basic idea is from all this code here, if you go down to an area where it says replace the URL with your own link, you'll see that there's a script code that says let URL. Grab everything that's in between here and then replace it with that code that you copied. It should have that project, unique project number there. And then run it, and then you'll be able to see a fancy version of your project, just like that banana meter tool that you saw. So you'll get a nice bar graph AI there. Anyways, so that is that. I'll go in and fix this right away. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. Feel free to ask me by email, or we always review your code, so we can leave messages there too. And also from the dashboard, there is an area where you can talk to us right away. And I think you might recognize that there's a chat icon in the corner. Just click on that and then talk to us. There's someone hanging out there all the time. And another place would be to do that in the Geek Out forum. And once you have created your website and you have created that share link, please share with all of us here. So all you have to do is come to that forum, and you can get to the forum from clicking on this teacher, click on forum, and then start a discussion. This is basically making your own post. And then once you click on post discussion, it's going to ask you to select tags that are relevant. So do that and then make the post, or you can just click on this artificial intelligence and then make the post here. So that is that. And once you are done with all the content in the course, we are going to issue a certificate of completion. And well, it doesn't quite count as anything, but you've spent so much time here, making this work and learning. And I really wanted to give something back. So we'll issue this once you finish the course. And next Monday, you'll also see that the 5-day Intro to CS with Python course loaded in your dashboard. So yeah, that is it for the day. I guess we're wrapping up day 5 now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'll pass the mic over to Omar.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's been such an honor to collaborate with you and to share with you all over this last week, really our ways of wanting to engage learners in CS. So I do want to put a link to our feedback form up on the screen. This really was my first launch into this space. I've been working in the robotics space for a while, but I'll share with you, I literally graduated from my computer science credentialing program on Saturday, and we launched into our summer of CS on Monday. So I waited no time to dive right in to share those resources and to be able to continue to plan. So I really look forward to next week. Even if you haven't registered, pop on. It's the same link. Remember, Tuesday, we'll be doing HTML with Skillstruck. Wednesday, we'll be talking about starting up a club with girls who code. Now, remind you, it's not all about girls only. Though they are focused on girls who code, they will show you information about starting up a coding club for all your students. And then finally, on Thursday, we'll be doing Coding at Home with Ozobot. So I want to thank everyone. I do want to encourage you to follow me on Twitter. That's Dr. STEM, as well as fill out our feedback survey. Might there be any questions before we wrap up? I know we went over a bit. Thank you so much for everyone. And thank you, Jane, Nisa, and Alan for joining me on this journey. And I'm looking forward to future collaborations. You all have a wonderful weekend. And I hope to see you next week on Tuesday. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.